Welcome into the Fantasy Football Playmakers podcast. It's week 13. Waivers are running. Injuries are reoccurring. However, I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Ryan Mackey, who you can find on Twitter at Mackey_FFB. If you want to find me on Twitter, it is at PopesFFH. Ryan, how's it going?
Not too bad, man. Outside of a little car trouble, we didn't have the show last week, I believe, because I had the car trouble, Jeremy. Same thing happened to me again today on my way into work.
It's Tuesdays.
Car dies in the middle of the road, probably a minute into my drive. My work has this rule where if we come off of a vacation from a holiday, like Thanksgiving, we get a break, 4th of July, Christmas. If you call off or are late the day after we come back, so we were supposed to come back today. If you are late for the time or that day, that first day back, you lose your vacation pay that you received. So like I got paid 3 days off. I got paid for Thanksgiving, Friday, and yesterday, all holiday pay. And I technically was supposed to lose it because I was late today because of my car dying in the middle of the road. Thankfully, my bosses understood, and I was able to work some flex time, worked like 45 minutes extra, and everything's good, squared away. So my day started off really terrible. My fiance had to wake my kids up an hour early, had to come get me, take me to work, and then take them to school and stuff. So, yeah, my day started off terrible. I knew about the whole late thing, no pay thing. So I basically begged and pleaded with my bosses. I was like, listen, I'll work flex time. I'll work an hour over to make up for my half hour I was late. I don't really care what I got to do. I just don't want to be 30 minutes late and lose 3 days of holiday pay for it. So it was a crazy day today, but happy it all worked out. And even though my car's not fixed, it's like $1,000 fix I got to take care of, but just happy it worked out, and now I'm just ready to talk about week 13 and get things rolling on that.
Hey, cars are cars, you know. I
have the worst luck with cars, man. It's terrible. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but it's terrible.
Well, at least you have better luck with dynasty rosters.
I don't even know about that. We were just talking before the show, and I had a 6-2 team that's absolutely loaded, and now I'm 6-6, and I have to win this week in order to make the playoffs next week. So I don't know. And I read you my starting lineup from last week, and my team is loaded. Is what it is. Jamar Chase. I mean, Tyreek Hill was on a bye. Devontae Adams did some work for me, but CMC went down. Devontae Smith did nothing. I mean, Godwin did nothing.
Godwin.
Yeah, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, good old times. It was the fumble. Chris Godwin. Gotta love it.
No, I don't gotta love it. I kind of hate it, as a matter of fact.
You know, at this point in my fantasy season, nothing surprises me. You know, I mean, Kendrick Bourne was like the wide receiver 5 this week. So
I did call him in one of our lineup questions.
You did. I as I'm watching him go off, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm gonna hear about this one.
No, I didn't say anything. The only thing I was tongue in cheek about was the Godwin thing with you.
It made sense. I'm just saying, he's been good, you know.
Yeah, but over Elijah Mitchell, like I got got the
Because Elijah Mitchell was injured. We didn't know he was playing yet.
I said on the live show that if they're playing him, giving their backfield depth, if they're playing, he's going to see a full workload. And I should have just stuck with him, rode the wave.
Godwin played at 1. We didn't know if he was playing yet. That was the decision. That was the problem. Okay,
All right.
Jesus. If he was fully healthy, I would have said start Elijah Mitchell.
I'm not benching Elijah Mitchell the rest of the year. I don't care if he has a torn ACL. I'm gonna keep him around.
He's out there with like a bionic knee.
Yeah. Just tears the ACL tomorrow in practice. Knock on wood. I'm still starting him in my lineup. He'll score points somehow.
Speaking of injured running backs, CMC, she's shut down. They're shutting them down. Ankle sprain. Kind of feels like it's just been a very tough 2 years for Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
Obviously, if you still held on to Chubba Hubbard, you're in good situation.
Are you?
Yeah, I think you are. I mean, yes and no. I mean, Amir Abdullah kind of is taking a lot of the passing work, but
he has come around, and Chuba's workload has come after Amir Abdullah or before Amir Abdullah really became a thing there. So
it should be interesting.
Yeah.
Week 14. Who do they have in 14 again?
Week 14, they have. I'll tell you here in just a second.
The Falcons.
Atlanta. And then they play at Buffalo, Tampa Bay, at New Orleans. So their playoff schedule is rough.
They have Miami. Oh, yeah. Oops, Miami. I'm missing a week. Nope. Missing a week. My bad. Yeah.
You're going to say they just played Miami and you got crushed.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, they come out of the playoff schedule. They play Atlanta, which is an easy matchup, but then they get at Buffalo, at home to Tampa, and then at New Orleans. So, I mean, their matchup is – I know a lot of people are going to go after Chuba, and I understand why, but I look at that schedule. I look at what Abdullah has done even when McCaffrey was in the lineup, and I'm kind of hesitant on picking him up, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that some people probably held on to him if they still have him. I mean, he might be worth a start somewhere in there, depending on situational plug and plays, or what your roster situation is. But other injured running backs, Dalvin Cook, left shoulder.
Before we move on, what's your take on CMC in terms of a dynasty asset and for redraft next year? Where do you? Because I'm kind of out on him as a top 3 pick next year, to be honest with you. I can't get burned like that again, even though the upside's so high.
I feel like he'll get the Saquon treatment to an extent. He'll probably fall to 5 or 6, I would think. Just because of, for example, I mean, Jonathan Taylor seems like the clear-cut 1 if we're talking non-super flex.
Yeah, as of right now, yeah.
I would say he's probably 1. I mean, 2, you can argue, is up for grabs there. That's where it starts to get dicey. I mean, do you trust Najee Harris gets the same workload? Is Ben Roethlisberger back? Because if Roethlisberger isn't back, Najee Harris's value, I feel like, tanks because he's just getting the passing work. That's what's making him a PPR viable running back. I mean, his rushing totals, he hasn't been overly impressive on the ground. So, where are you there? I mean, is Deandre Swift there now? When he gets the workload, he's there. There's a lot of guys. Dalvin Cook is another one that we're going to talk about here in just a second that's injured again. His value is going to drop coming next season at this point. And, I mean, you could start to make an argument for wide receivers. Is that where you put in a Chase? Is it, okay, let's just take Kelsey? You know what I mean? Guys that give you a positional value that are just healthy all the time. But yeah, I feel like he's probably going to stay in the top 5 just because when he's healthy, he's one of the best fantasy assets in the business. So it's hard to ignore that.
Yeah,
upside.
He finishes the RB8, even missing the 5 games that he did miss. So, I mean, the talent is still obviously there, but I mean, if he falls outside of the top 8, like if I have the 9th pick and he's still there at 9, I'm probably gonna take him. His upside's just too high at that point, and I'll just kind of take the L if he doesn't return value. But in terms of dynasty, I mean, he was going for a huge haul before, and now I've seen people trading him straight up for Joe Mixon, or I saw one for. I think I saw one for like AJ Dillon in a second or something like that today on Twitter. So like, I mean,
yeah, I mean, Mixon's a guy that's interesting. Where's his value going to be next year? In like a one quarterback league, because you're looking at what right now? It's Taylor, Eckler, Mixon, Najee Harris, Fournette, Henry, Elliott, Swift, Patterson, Connor, Jones, and Kamara are your top 12 running backs.
And
so
at least, I mean, just historically speaking, at least 4 of those guys aren't going to repeat as top 1 or as RB1s. Cordell Patterson's the obvious one. And then,
yeah, I feel like Patterson gets replaced.
James Conner's the other obvious one. And then you go from there.
Fournette
where
could be argued that he might. Najee Harris could be an argument. Do you know what I mean? Again, it all comes down to who do you trust that high in the draft, Like, I don't want to sit there on the clock at 2 and take Austin Eckler.
No.
I mean, I loved Eckler. I like Eckler, but not at 2. You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking probably elsewhere.
Even with that pass catching upside he's got in that offense?
Yeah, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't know. I mean, I like him. Henry. It just seems like
Henry.
Yeah, at 2, I mean, I would probably rather take Henry. I mean, Henry's still, if you go like points per game, he's the best running back, I think.
Oh, he's probably gonna stay the best running back in terms of points per game.
Yeah, just like I don't know. I'm really torn on CMC. I just feel like the upside's too high to pass on him too late in the draft. I don't see him getting outside the 5. In some drafts, like you said, you might see him fall to 8, but that would be crazy to me. I mean, you can argue some of these other guys are going to drive up there depending on how they finish the season, And you haven't talked about Cook's at an RB2 right now, Gibson, Chubb, like, I don't know. Not at 2, I'm not going to take these guys, but I don't know. You could easily make it, I mean, Austin Eckler's at 242 for PPR points. I mean, you've got the only person ahead of him is Cooper Kupp at 277. And then there's quarterbacks. Like, honestly, even, you know what I mean? Like, you could make an argument that maybe even in one quarterback, some of these quarterbacks are more valuable. You know what I mean? Allen's at 269. Hurts is at 262. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. And you also got to remember, like, guys like J.K. Dobbins are out. Cam Akers is out. I mean,
but again, those are you really going to take them at 2, though? You know what I mean? Like,
but I'm saying, like, there's going to be other guys with high upside coming back next year that people might be willing to take over CMC just because they feel like they got burned by him this year and last year for that matter. And they're just like, okay.
I mean, Saquon still held his value. Saquon had 2 injury-ridden seasons leading into this year, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like
he's a lot younger with a lot less work on his side. And I guarantee he's not going to be a top 10 pick next year, I don't think.
Oh, I don't think so. No. I mean, no. I don't know. I still feel like CMC's upside's way too high to pass on him past like 3 or 4 and 1 QBs. I just don't, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you have quarterbacks and stuff getting you other points, but you can hold off and they'll last longer in the draft. So it's not huge, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't trust Joe Mixon to do this again. Another one that has injury problems. I don't trust Najee Harris. I mean, Austin Eckler, you could argue that maybe.
No, but like, Najee has 4 games over 60 yards this year. So, rushing yards.
That's so if it's all his passing work. If Roethlisberger gets replaced and they don't dump it off to him, he loses all his value.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of it, but
he'd be another year in the system.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Their offensive line's just trash. It was what you know what I mean. It was what I like when I said coming into the year. That's why I didn't expect him to be this. I mean, I figured like a RB2, but I also didn't anticipate him getting like 30 targets a game. You know what I mean? Like, I figured Ben would at least be able to throw it more than 5 yards. It just, I don't know. I feel like Elliott will be up there again. I think Henry's going to be up there. I think CMC is going to be up there. I mean, these guys are still good. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know.
It'll be interesting next year for sure.
Yeah. At least in that top, the top 5, you know what I mean? Like where the pick's going to be. It's really interesting to think about because, I mean, I hardly thought about it until right there. And now you're looking at like where these guys are finishing at the moment. Like, I don't love taking Eckler at 2, you know, but like it makes sense. It just doesn't seem right, you know?
Right.
Dynasty, yeah, I'd move CMC. I think that's not a big deal. But if you're looking strictly as if you're drafting, it's going to be weird.
But if you're a team that is that's contending this year and also is set up to compete next, like that one team that I was just talking about, that team is set up to compete for the next 2 or 3 years straight. I have CMC. I'm not willing to move him.
I wouldn't.
But
if you're ready to compete, I wouldn't move him. I think his just value is way too high. You know what I mean? If you're a contender or like a borderline,
his value doesn't match his upside right now at all.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, his value to your team is huge. If he's healthy, he's gonna be a top 5 running back. The problem is he just hasn't been able to stay healthy, which is part of the game. But like what are you going to get for CMC? I'm not going to give you a ton for CMC in Dynasty. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
that's what I mean. If you're a contending team that can compete this year and next year, you're not moving him.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw one that somebody did that was like, it was CMC and like a mid-level wide receiver for like Godwin and David Montgomery. You know what I mean? Like, if you're getting something like that, I mean, maybe. But I don't know. CMC's interesting. He's hard.
I was gonna do it before the show, and I forgot to.
But he's
forgot to do it.
He's in the same situation as like Dalvin Cook, another guy that's injured, that's out another 2 or 3 weeks. Another guy that's had injury problems this season. His high upside value is there, but again, he's not worth a ton in a dynasty market on a basis that people are ready, that he's at that cliff. He's at that point of like, okay, what is he really worth? But what you're going to get back for him isn't worth what his upside could be. So it's like, what do you do with guys like this? For example, right. Zeke, you know what I mean? There's rumors that he could be shut down or limited, but then you have Jerry Jones coming out and saying today that he's not going to be limited. So what's the situation? How healthy is Zeke? Tony Pollard's breathing down his back. A lot of interesting things there in that running back position and the changing of the guard, you could argue. But the problem is a lot of these younger running backs are in committees. Like, what is Javonte Williams' value? You know what I mean? Everybody's super hyped on him. His value is super high. We saw a little bit of a tidbit where Melvin Gordon didn't get a ton of touches. He kind of got injured and banged up, and Javonte ripped off a 20-point PPR week. Like, is that his weekly? Is that what he's going to be next year? Is he going to get us 20 points every week? Is he going to be a top 5 running back?
Right.
Or is it just lightning in a bottle for a week, and now everybody's going to be like, well, this is what he could do. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, just looking at, I went to DLF's like trade finder. You look, some of the deals that went down today for CMC and Tyler Johnson for AJ Dillon, Leonard Fournette, and Odell Beckham. And that's in a dynasty league. Christian McCaffrey for Elijah Mitchell and Kyle Pitts. Before this year, that trade would probably be those trades would probably be getting vetoed. Actually, they would be getting vetoed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it to me. Christian McCaffrey, Terrace Marshall, and Zach Ertz for Saquon, Alex Collins, and Adam Troutman. Like, laughable. Literally laughable, and that's like where he's at now. Like, it's really weird.
I get it though. If you're a CMC manager, like, you have had 2 years of just meh.
Yeah, but if you're a Saquon owner, you've also had 2 years of meh.
Yeah, the Saquon one's interesting. You really traded like
Alex Collins, who's not going to be a starting running back next year, and
he's
Adam
not even valuable right now. I mean, really, Alex Collins, I have him on some of my rosters, has like gotten 4 PPR points the last 3 weeks. Like he's just not valuable.
How are you?
He scored 20 points against Pittsburgh, and then he's been nothing. So you got a guy who's basically valueless, Saquon, and then who's the third piece?
Troutman.
And Troutman, who is probably nothing.
I mean, he started to come along, but now he's on IR.
Yeah, but he only came on because Trevor Siemian was in there. Like, you know what I mean? It was the quarterback scheme. You know, like what is the future? What if Winston comes back and he's not? I don't know.
All right, so I'm just going to real quick. I'm going to go back to a week from today. All right, Christian McCaffrey for Tyreek Hill in a second. Christian McCaffrey for Derrick Henry, a first and a second. Christian McCaffrey and a third for Derrick Henry, Rondale Moore, and a first. Christian McCaffrey for Alvin Kamara and a first. Like 1 week, and he goes for Alex Collins, Adam Troutman, and Saquon Barkley. But that's insane to me. It's insane.
It's the old adage. What can you do for me now?
Those guys aren't doing anything for you now.
Just saying, they're healthy though.
Nothing at all.
They're healthy though.
No, they're not. Troutman's not healthy. Alex Collins is barely healthy, and Saquon Barkley is just averaged like 2.1 yards per carry last week.
Hey man, they can be played though. Anyways, Deandre Swift is trending towards being out of week 13. Fire up Jamal Williams. But there's hope that Deandre Swift might be back for week 14 and beyond. Miles Sanders re-aggravated his ankle sprain. He's considered week to week. It's been a tough go here for running backs. Again, watch the Miles Sanders situation. Boston Scott, Jordan Howard might have some run in them again. Interesting one for Sunday and a nice matchup against the Jets. Jalen Hurts has a left ankle injury. Even if he plays, I think that should be interesting as far as his fantasy value goes. A lot of it's on the ground. How bad is this ankle going to affect him? So that's definitely something to monitor. And depending on your quarterback situation, you might want to pivot off of Jalen Hurts.
Just going back to Miles Sanders real quick. Sorry, just going back to Miles Sanders real quick. Jordan Howard's not expected to play. So,
is he injured as well?
Yeah.
Hate to see it. Kenny Gainwell? Question mark. Is it back?
They played him in the fourth quarter, and when they were playing from behind. So when they needed him to be out there. So I mean, he's going to see snaps, but I'm not trusting him in any lineup, that's for
sure. I might get risky. Deebo Samuel, groin strain. He is out a couple weeks. Brandon Ayuk? Question mark.
Elijah Mitchell. Not benching him, ever.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Ayuk is kind of a guy I think that you could look to fire up and have some hope. Some deep guys, Trent Sherfield.
Jaquan Jennings.
Yeah, Jaquan Jennings has kind of emerged. At least for a couple weeks, filling. You got to get somebody in. They might be rosterable players. A guy that I hate to see go down, Darren Waller, is week to week still with his knee. So look for Foster Moreau possibly to get they start this week. And then a fellow tight end, Dan Arnold, MCL sprain. He seems to be done probably for the season. It's 4 to 6 weeks, but Jacksonville, they might just shut him down. So, unfortunately, a guy that's kind of emerged as a great weekly tight end just because of his target share and a safe floor of about 9 to 10 points. Looks like we lost him to an injury, sadly. James O'Shaughnessy is a name to watch. He kind of had a slight stint before he got hurt early in the season. He definitely could be somebody who takes over for that Dan Arnold injury. Randall Cobb is a groin strain. He is out for multiple weeks. I don't know how much fantasy value really even Cobb had. I mean, he had a couple good weeks, but at this point, it seems like it's Devontae Adams in that offense. So
Forever.
Darrell Henderson injured quad strain. Seems to be in question for week 13, so we might see Sony Michelle get the run there. Doesn't seem to be much more than that, though, I think. So hopefully if he does miss week 13, he should be back for the playoffs in 14, 15, 16. JD McKissick, neck injury. He is listed as week 2 week. And seeing as in they're going to be on a short week this week, I highly doubt he plays this weekend against the Raiders, which is really good news for Antonio Gibson playing against a weak Raiders rush defense as well as just fantasy to running back point defense. So Antonio Gibson is definitely a guy to look out for. Hopefully you're not playing him. He could easily put up with that 20, 25 to 30 point week.
I think Jarrett Patterson's viable.
Maybe.
Like a flex, like a low end flex PPR play.
How much did he? I didn't check. How much did he play at the end of the game when McKissick went down? Did he play a lot? Because he would have been active, I would have thought. I feel like Gibson's kind of just the guy though now.
He was on the field for 13 snaps.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll get some run. They do like him a lot, and he has some value, but I'm not going to play him. I think it's going to be a Gibson type show. And you saw it, he got 7 targets, 7 receptions last night. On top of his rushing work that he's had the last couple of weeks, it just, again, it's the Raiders. I mean, it might be a little bit of a back and forth game, but I feel like they might try and beat him on the ground. So I don't know. I don't see him as like any value, like he'd be an interesting ad, especially with a neck injury. So that could be definitely week to week that could linger. So
the injury didn't look good. So I haven't heard anything about how long he's going to be out for, but the injury did not look good when it happened. So
hate to see injuries. Hate to see it.
Yeah. I mean,
but
for him, I'm probably adding him in a deeper league just in case something were to happen to Antonio Gibson. I'm going to hedge on that a little bit if I'm in a deeper league and have a roster spot in general. I'm probably going to at least pick him up just in case.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Now is the time of year where most of your players have already got past their buys. You probably know who your roster cloggers are. If you can drop one of those guys for a guy that could be an RB1 on a team, I mean, that's where you kind of have to go at this point in the season.
Yeah, I did a lot of that last week. I mean, I added Ronald Jones and Sony Michelle in a couple of my redraft leagues just on the basis of getting those little bit higher end handcuffs that if there's a possibility of an injury, sadly, because it just happens. And I mean, look at Darrell Henderson got a little bit of a quad strain, so it might benefit me. I might be able to play Sony Michelle this week in a lead role.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, week 12, it's concluded. The Bills won on Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, the Patriots won as well. The Monday Night Showdown. Man, the NFL is just good. They're good. They are really good at planning this stuff, aren't they?
Now, see, we say that, but then we say, why are the Bears playing the Lions or whatever on Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah, but it's the Bears and the Lions. They got to play on Thanksgiving. It's a tradition. All right.
They shouldn't be playing each other.
Yeah, why not, though?
Because it's garbage football.
True. I do like when they're separate, Like,
separate them.
The Cowboys on Thanksgiving kind of seems normal, but, like, the Saints, the Bills, you know what I mean? Like, kind of seems like they're kind of becoming teams that tend to play it a lot.
Yeah, the Bills have played back-to-back Thanksgiving Day. I don't think they played 3 years ago, but I know they're back-to-back because they beat up on Dallas last year.
Yeah, it's been back-to-back. So it's in, like, back-to-back years. I mean, I don't mind it as a Bills fan. I liked the 8 o'clock start a lot better than the 4.
Yes.
But
definitely like the 8 o'clock start better.
But, yeah, man, Monday night, next week, the division on the line. The Bills better show up because their defense is in trouble with no Trey White. I'm just going to say it. Don't be afraid to play Kendrick Bourne or Jacoby Myers. I really think that this pass defense is going to be – you'll be able to start wide receivers against the number one pass defense. I think they're going to slip a lot without Trey White.
Still weren't able to do much of anything even after the Trey White injury, though.
Ryan, think about what you just said. Trevor Siemian, Marquez Callaway, Deontay Harris, Traquan Smith.
No, Mac I get it.
Nelson Aguilar. Kendrick Bourne.
You guys aren't role beaters, though. Kendrick Bourne has 4
Kendrick Bourne is like the wide receiver, 15 in PPR right now. He has more points than Dalvin Cook, I'm pretty sure. I saw it on Twitter. I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah, but that's because Dalvin Cook missed games.
It doesn't matter. I'm just saying. I'm really worried.
24 in PPR.
Whatever, same difference. 24, 15, they're all the same.
And he's got more than 4 targets in 4 games.
That's all it takes.
It
helped his 2 touchdown game this week. But either way, I'm just saying I'm worried. Bills fan. I'm really sad.
As a Bills fan, I'm still not confident in this team at all.
Yeah, it got worse losing Trey White.
I'm not confident at all. They're too inconsistent. Trey White being down hurts a lot. If they come out and just stomp on the Patriots, I will be slightly more confident. But until we win the division, until it says the Bills have locked up the AFC East, I am not confident in them winning the division anymore.
I don't really know. I feel like the Patriots are the game now that in the rest of the season, I feel like that's the games. The 2 of these games are really what's going to determine how I feel. The Buccaneers was one that I kind of had benchmarked, but they've been very meh as well. They haven't been what they were. I still feel like they're probably going to be a benchmark. That's going to be a big tell. But the rest of the games, you've got New England, you've got Carolina, you've got
at worst they should go 3-3 to finish the year, and that would put it at what? Not 10-7.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to win the division.
No, they can't. They have to. They have to sweep New England. They have to. So.
Luckily, they get Atlanta and the Jets to end the year. So if it's a close race, then that might help them out. But New England's just tough. That's all there is to it.
It's just meh. Outside of the Bills situation, Ryan, Week 12, if you had to pick one, what was your biggest surprise?
For me, it was Joe Mixon against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. You were starting him in your lineups, but you were not expecting a 28 carry, 165 yard, 2 touchdown performance. Didn't do much with his 4 targets, but still had 4 targets. This is his 4th straight week with at least 18 opportunities, 2nd straight week with 30 plus opportunities. Currently the RB3 in both PPR and standard. His recent volume and production makes him a weekly top 5 play in this offense for me, given the receiving options in this offense, which makes defenses unable to stack the box against him. He's only seen a stack box on 19% of his carries for the year. So he should, as long as he stays healthy, he should be able to produce top 5 numbers, even in matchups that are considered to be bad ones like Pittsburgh was.
I feel like Pittsburgh gets overrated, as a run defense. I feel like they've gotten gashed by a couple teams. Detroit did it. Cincinnati did it now.
After this week, they are the 20th ranked rush defense.
But everybody always says that they're just they're always oh no, they're playing the Steelers. They can't run the ball. You know what I mean? Like, am I weird for thinking that? Like, am I the only person who thinks that people say that?
No, I mean they took a pretty far fall in terms of points scored against after this week because he put up just such a massive point total. I know they're much closer to a top 15 defense against running backs than they are now before this week happened, but they're still allowing over 4.8 yards to carry. I mean, it's obviously not as intimidating as we thought or have been thinking all year. I mean, I have a color-coded defensive points against Excel sheet that I made, and they're yellow and green across the board for the most part. So, which is easy
with their Excel sheets.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna go the opposite way with the surprise. I could easily pick Javonte Williams over here. I could easily pick.
No, you cannot pick Javonte.
Anybody else, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna go negative. I'm gonna go with somebody who burned a couple people that I told to start him because I'm just in a burned mood. You know, it's like burn notice over here.
Love that show.
Aaron Jones. What's my beef? My beef's like, why'd you start him? Why'd they even play him? Why? What was the point, Ryan? Please tell me. What was the point?
There wasn't one.
There was none. Why didn't they just sit him? Like I said, could have made my fantasy decisions much easier. No, instead, they start him. They give him 10 carries, 23 yards, 2.3 yards a carry. He obviously was hurt. And I get it's the Rams, but the Rams aren't good against the run.
Wait a second. I'm pretty sure you said on the live show that even if he did play, you were not going to start him.
I did. Maybe. No, I didn't say that. I highly doubt I said that.
Maybe I know I did.
Someone go back and check. Did. But I said if they're going to play him, he's obviously got to be healthy.
Because
what's the point?
That's what you said. You said if they were –
So why wouldn't they give him a full workload? They didn't.
Healthy enough.
Because he obviously wasn't healthy. So was it just a situation he got out there and they're like, oh, he's not as good as we thought. Let's sit him. Either way, at 2.3 PPR points. Like, why? Why'd they even play him? You know what I mean? Like, because now I'm sitting there second guessing it. You got to play your studs when they're active. I play my studs, and this is what I get. I gotta say. It just made no sense. It's their bye this week. Like, why didn't they just sit them?
Man, I don't know. The one thing is that given what we saw and knowing that they should have went more conservative, I would not be surprised if his workload drops a little bit, even when he is healthy now. A.J. Dillon's proving that he can handle a larger workload, and he's a much different style runner than Aaron Jones is. I wouldn't be surprised if A.J. Dillon starts to see some more goal line work, some more short yardage work. They're going to need him for the stretch run. They definitely will, but I don't think you're going to see the massive workload that he was receiving before, or he has seen before.
Another one. Why'd they even pay him all that money? You know what I mean? Like, they paid him a ton of money to keep him, and he's a talented player, but like, they're giving the guy. I mean, some games he's had a decent amount of target. I mean, he gets like 20 touches a game, I guess. I mean, it's not that bad, but I don't know. This week just peeved me. Like, what was the point of playing him? You know what I mean? Like, it's my own fault for starting him in fantasy football. Like, I can't blame him or like the actual health of his own human body. But like, it's just kind of like why they made it hard for me, and I just. That's all. I said to vent a little.
Yeah, you could.
Right. Yeah, I'm good now. Let's talk about week 13. I'm starting Aaron Jones. No,
better not. He's on a bye.
See, that's how it just, click it over. Anyways, week 13, Ryan. waiver ads. We got to get those claims in. Maybe you have Aaron Jones. Maybe you had CMC. Maybe you have Dalvin Cook, like me. Who's one of the top ads that you're looking at this week, Ryan?
My number one ad outside of Alexander Madison, who is obviously either rostered in majority of leagues or
he actually isn't. I did an article for SGPN on Sunday. Yep. ESPN, he's only rostered in like 40%, 44% of leagues of redraft.
He's rostered in 57% of leagues of sleepers, so.
Well, I'm just saying ESPN is what we use for that, but
ESPN doesn't know what they're doing.
Well, I'm just saying that's what I use.
Anyways.
Oh, I lied. It has it at 33%.
See, at this point of the year, like I cannot stress this enough. You should know who you're playing at this point, and if you have like low upside guys, you should be getting people's handcuffs. You should be getting Alexander Madison. You should already have him on your roster. You should already have guys like Chuba or Tony Pollard or just any of these guys that could be an RB2 or higher the moment their starter gets injured. You should already have these guys on your roster if you can swing it. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. But like the guy I'm about to talk about right now, Jamal Williams. Had 20 opportunities last week after Deandre Swift went down. They get Minnesota this week, who's allowing over 25 PPR points per game to opposing running backs, which is bottom 12 in the league, while allowing 4.5 yards per carry. In my opinion, he is a must-add for anybody that is in need of a running back this week. I'm putting a claim in for every league that I'm in for him. He's only rostered in 41% of leagues, so he's my number one priority ad outside of Alexander Madison, who is already going to be the guy that people probably spend the majority of their fab on, if not the rest of it on. So he's going to be the cheaper option of the two and debatably gets a softer matchup this week. So he might even be more helpful. But with that said about Alexander Madison, the reason why he should be your number one waiver claim, and you should be spending probably the rest of your fab on him, is that in the 4 games without Cook, Madison has seen a 78% rushing market share, a 14.5% target share, 25 opportunities, 125 total yards per game, and averages 21.2 PPR points per game in those 4 games. His schedule isn't the easiest moving forward after they play Detroit this week. They get Pittsburgh, who's 20th, and then they get Chicago, who's 12th, the Rams, who are 15th, and Green Bay, who's 9th to round out the year. So be mindful of that, but you at this point, he's a guy that you got to be willing to spend the fab on just because of what he's done without Dalvin Cook in the lineup.
He already put up 26 points on the Lions in week 5.
Yeah, he's gonna have a big day, and that's gonna be why people throw the majority, if not all, of the remaining fab on him. So my guess is that the cheaper option is going to be Jamal Williams, who isn't going to have the same upside, I don't think, but he should have a nice day against Minnesota.
Nice. I like it. I like both of them. I agree. Madison's a must. Williams, if he's out there, is a must. I found out Williams was actually rostered in more leagues, at least in that one article for ESPN. So, but one that's rostered in not many, kind of a guy that's been under the radar, hasn't been used a lot. He's probably not like a top ad, but for me, he is in a lot of dynasty leagues, deeper leagues. Matt Breda, he's kind of emerged in Buffalo. Zack was inactive on Thanksgiving, so he's kind of gives you that off-speed pitch. He's a little bit faster than the other two. He gives you that screen game, and he's just starting to see more touches in this offense that has struggled to find an identity this season. So for me, I think he's going to be under the radar, and he's worth, part of your fab a little bit, toss a waiver wire in there if you need a running back. Say you lost CMC, say you lost somebody and you need a fill in this week. For example, this week they played New England. Statistically, they're a little bit tougher, I believe. But we just saw the Titans put up 200 yards on them with Dontrell Hillard and Deontay Foreman on the ground. So for me, I think there's a very good percentage that Matt Breda could give you double-digit points this week in a PPR league. So for me, it's just basically kind of a one-week fill-in because we don't know what the rest of the season is going to be, and their schedule gets pretty tough with Carolina and Tampa in the fantasy playoffs. So I'm not sold on him being like a league winner, but he might be able to help you get into the fantasy playoffs this week.
You're not worried about Zach Moss being active again? Do you think Zach Moss is just a healthy scratch from here on out? As long as Singletary and Breda are both active?
Huh?
I'm just asking a question.
No, I'm not.
Not at all?
I haven't totally liked Zach Moss. There's been slight times where I've allowed myself to buy in, and I've put him in articles, and I wrote about him, and I'm like, you know what? This could be it. He could emerge. Healthy scratch. So, Zach Moss is on my burn list, okay? He's on my burn list. I just can't deal with it. I can't. And no, I don't think so, because it gives you something else. You know what I mean? Zach Moss and Devin Singletary are very similar. Moss is maybe a little bit more powerful, but they're very similar. They both run a very similar 40 time. They both kind of do both things well. Like everything they do is kind of similar. Singletary gives you a little bit more shiftiness. Moss doesn't, but they're very similar backs. So I think Moss is seeing the bench because Breda is so good in the passing game that they're allowing him to play the third downs where that would be normally what Zach Moss would do because he's such a good pass blocker. So I think Zach Moss is the most likely to see the healthy scratch over Devin Singletary. And I believe Breda's just speed that he brings, these two can't match it. So it's something that they need, and they've seen that they need it, and I don't see them going back at this point. And they can't activate all three of them because then they'd have to activate four because Tywan Jones has to play for special teams, and Moss, Singletary, or Breda don't play special teams. So,
right. Now, I got in this discussion with somebody else earlier in the week when it was announced that Zach Moss would be healthy and active. They asked me if I thought that Breda was just better than Zach Moss, like just purely more talented than he is. And I don't know if that's the case or if he's just fresher and just looks better because he hasn't played hardly at all. Like he had 4 attempts in week 1. He didn't see another carry until week 10. So
Breda's always been talented. He looked great in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, he's always been talented.
I think Breda is. I'd argue Breda could be more talented than Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss, they just do different things. If Devin Singletary wasn't here, they'd probably have Breda and Zach Moss playing. Do you know what I'm saying? I think Zach Moss's problem is Devin Singletary, not Breda.
I would argue that Breda's probably a more well-rounded back. He's probably a more balanced back for that offense.
Yeah, he's just faster. He gives you that speed. He doesn't have necessarily the shiftiness. He's elusive to an extent, but he doesn't give you like that miss in a phone booth where Devin Singletary gives you that. And Singletary's been impressive all season. I mean, he manages to get yards. He falls forward. Something, and Zach Moss just tends to run into linemen and get stuffed. And he has looked bad all season. And I think because of how good Singletary looked, and then the fact that Moss can't give them the speed that Breda does, that's the situation we're in at the moment. And I think they've seen what the speed of Breda does to a defense, and they're like, ooh, this is a factor that we've lacked from the backfield. So, I mean, to be honest, I know, and it's going to have to, the Bills still have a lot of other voids to fill in the offseason, but it's going to be another one that I'm beating at a drum that in the first or second round, they have to take a running back. I know this class isn't great, but they really need to get a solid running back there. They don't need a workhorse, but they need to get Isaiah Spiller or like a Kyron Williams or just somebody who has that ability to kind of, I don't know, game break it from back there because they can't keep running Josh on quarterback sweeps at the 50
You know
yard.
who I said I thought would look good in a Bills uniform next season?
Who?
Kenneth Walker.
I think he's going to drive too far up. I like Kenneth Walker. I mean, he could be an option. I don't know. I feel like they just don't value the running back position too much, which is weird coming from a team that drafted CMC. I mean, that organization. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, okay. I see what you are. That
they don't really value the running back in this offense. But I don't know. I think they should have taken Javonte Williams. Him in this offense would have been freaking nasty this year. But, I mean, you can't argue Gregory Rousseau looks pretty good, but I'm just saying. Maybe they'll take maybe they'll take Breece Hall this year. I'd love it. I'd be all over it. If they do, that could be all right. All right, we've gone on way too many tangents today, right? Yeah. Let's get a couple in, real quick ones, and then we'll sign off. We're almost at the hour.
We are. You want me to go on my number 2?
Yeah.
So this is purely just in case for me, but number 2 for me is Sony Michelle. Week 3 with Tampa against Tampa, with Darrell Henderson being out. He didn't produce a ton of points, but it was against Tampa. He saw 95% of the carries and a 11% target share. He will almost certainly have RB2 upside in a matchup against Jacksonville, who's allowing 25 PPR points a game on the season to running backs. And obviously the volume will be there given what we saw earlier in the year. If Henderson were to miss this game with that mysterious quad injury that he had, I think it kind of flew under the radar at the end of the game, at the end of the week. So don't really know how that's going to look, but I'd be adding him just in case, because even if Henderson were to miss this or play this week, if he re-aggravates that injury and they sit him the following week, he would still have RB2 upside with his volume. So whether it be for this week or if a re-aggravation occurs and Darrell Henderson gets hurt, he's one of these guys that I was talking about where you should be having handcuffs to backs at this point if you can afford to put them on your bench.
I like it. I'd start Sony Michelle this week against Jacksonville if he gets that big workload, for sure. Oh, yeah. So I totally get it. I'll just drop a couple quick names out there. I think an interesting one that could be a low fab budget ad or a late ad after. Josh Reynolds is definitely interesting. He's a guy I added as soon as Detroit added him in a couple spots of my deeper dynasty leagues, just because of that connection with Jared Goff and the fact that there's no proven wide receiver really in that room yet. That's kind of emerged. We saw him very low target share. I think he only had 5 or 6 targets, but again, it's a team that doesn't throw the ball that much. So he did take 3 receptions, 70 yards and a touchdown. With the field stretching abilities, he's playing outside. He's not playing a slot role, and he might be able to do a little better in that position. So he's a guy that's interesting to watch, someone I'm adding, especially with the wide receiver issues that we've seen, like A.J. Brown going down on IR, Julio Jones. You know, there's some names out there that are injured or going to be on bye weeks the next couple of weeks that are going to need fill-ins. Devontae Adams is going to be a guy that's going to be out on a bye week. Deandre Hopkins still hasn't come back. We don't know if he's going to be back this week. So just interesting guy that might be able to be played here in the next couple weeks. So the Vikings they get this week is a fairly easy wide receiver matchup. It's not like crazy good, but it's middle of the road.
Yeah. And I read a stat on them. They ran 11 personnel at a season high rate. I think they had 3 wide receivers at over 80% snap share. So he's going to be on the field, especially if DeAndre Swift doesn't play. He's he's definitely gonna be on the field. So I actually like that ad, seeing as how they're gonna have to throw to somebody, and
it just seems
the snaps in a game that you're probably gonna be trailing. Why not?
And he's always had fantasy intrigue. People have always, like, when he was in LA and then when he landed in Tennessee, like he has talent, he has ability, he's athletic. It's just kind of like seems like it just never worked out, and maybe it will work out here with a better opportunity that he could see a larger target share because there is no technically quote unquote alpha receiver.
Right. Are you gonna, you said you had a couple names, so I wasn't sure if you were going to give your other couple names.
Fine. You know what? You're going to push me like that? Nick Westbrook Akina is a guy that I'm kind of interested in. Again, A.J. Brown down for 3 weeks or so. He's available in almost over 96% of ESPN leagues currently. So just kind of a guy. He scored a touchdown. He didn't see a lot. He only saw 5 targets, but only caught 2 of them. I don't know if that's Tannehill or just the New England defense is really good. J.C. Jackson's underrated. That pass defense is probably going to be one of the better in the NFL this season. So for me, I feel like he's only scored 10 points. Like I said, only had 2 receptions, but 1 was a touchdown. Wasn't a great performance, so he's going to fly even farther under the radar. But I think in a better matchup, he could have better opportunities. He's off in week 13, so if you need him for week 13, he's not great, which is also another knock on him if you're a contender to add him for 14, 15, 16, 17, because people probably won't look at him that need a win this week. So just kind of another under the radar that might pay off in the future. Then that's where I'll stop. That's all you, Ryan. You close her out.
So my last guy is another guy who had pretty high upside given if his starter ahead of him is out and that's Boston Scott. With Miles Sanders going down, we talked about Jordan Howard, or with Miles Sanders re-aggravating his injury and Jordan Howard unlikely to play this week. Boston Scott's really interesting to me. He was a top 20 back last week with Sanders going down. Like I said, he and Jordan Howard are likely to miss this week, which gives Boston Scott RB2 upside, possibly even more. They're allowing the most PPR points to running backs in the league with over 35 per game, while allowing 4.6 yards per game or per carry. He's definitely a guy that I would be very interested in spending some fab on to get on my team if you miss out on guys like Alexander Madison or Jamal Williams, or even I'd probably put him over Sony Michelle, especially because we're not sure what Darrell Henderson's injury looks like. But if you go for any of those guys, I mean, you're likely, if their starter doesn't play like we're expecting them to, all those guys probably have RB2 upside with a solid volume floor.
I like it. Add them all. Add in plenties. You know what I mean? Just bunches.
Yeah, just everything you can get.
Cherry
Literally everything you can get. If you see a handcuff running back and you're on the waiver wire, just put a waiver claim in for him. If you put 13 of them in, and if you're bound to get at least one of them.
Or none.
No. Unless it's fab. then you might be in trouble.
Either way, sound advice from my co-host, Ryan Mackey. Add that running back handcuffs. Always a plus. You never know.
Really don't.
That's going to wrap the show up. Hopefully the waiver wire ads hit this week. Ryan, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you again, what you have going on.
Tell you, are you gonna continue?
No.
The way you said that, you're like, anything you got going on, and you took a breath, and it sounded like you were gonna say something else. It's waiting on you. Anyways, you can find me on Twitter at Mackie_FFB. Jeremy, I know you got involved with this too, but I just joined the NFT Fantasy Club. Talked to Austin Plants. Jeremy kind of put me onto this. I talked to Austin, did some research on NFTs, and really excited for what he's doing. Jeremy, I don't know if he got a hold of you about what he gave his contributors today, but I'll be writing articles for them here shortly. I'm already working on one, as well as working on an article for yards per. So check that out when it drops.
Pumper.
Well, now that I have a steady schedule going on and it's not crazy holiday season yet, I have a little bit more time. So should have articles coming out for yards per, and which my article for yards per is going to be surprises for this season that I'm not targeting next season. So guys that I think are going to
regress.
Yes, strongly.
I like it.
So just be on the lookout for that. Like I said, find me on Twitter at Mackie_FFB. DMs are always open. Keep the questions coming. I have a couple guys that always tag me and stuff, so I appreciate that. I hope you guys have a good waiver wire, and good luck.
You can find me, Jeremy, at PopesFFH on Twitter. Any written stuff is on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, yards per, and like Ryan had alluded to, NFT Draft will have some stuff on there as well. Until Sunday, stay healthy, take care, and good luck.